Hello, people of YouTube, or wherever you're listening to this to. I'm Anna, aka Articulately Composed, and this is the first official episode of the articulateCast, chats about capitalism and creativity. Today, we have a special guest, Beatrice Quinn. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Beatrice Quinn would love to introduce herself. Also, I didn't know that was the whole name of the show. It's very long, but I think it's so accurate. Anyway, hello. My name is Beatrice Quinn. My friends call me B or Benny. But anyway, a little bit about myself, pronouns she, they. I am I want to call myself a creator, but another part of me wants to punch me in the face for saying that. But I am a writer, composer, musical theater creator and consumer, also just general all-around capitalist hater. And I have my master's degree in musical theater, where Anna and I met at NYU Tisch GMTWP cycle. We're not going to say the cycle number because we're not dating ourselves. But that is how we met, and we have collaborated on some many beautiful, wonderful things.
Those of you who are watching from my channel, you may know Callback. This is the same Benny that wrote half the music to Callback.
Yeah, I would like to say it wasn't half. It was more like 35%. I mean, I had that one song that I wrote by myself, and that was because it was for my character. Like all the other songs for everybody else, especially the ensembles.
We co-wrote it. I have it written as co-written on my channel because I didn't feel like dividing up, who wrote what lyrics, etc., etc.
Yeah, I would agree to that, but also it's just like when it comes to billing, I put your name first. Also, it's alphabetical,
Aww.
So... Yeah,
I usually put my name last always on projects just as a courtesy. Wow,
we're just gonna have a little bottom off right here to see who can be the most polite to the other. But anyway, yeah, that's how Anna and I have had the great pleasure of knowing each other, and I'm so super duper happy that it was Anna's brilliant idea to contact me, reach out, and be like, hey, you've been really annoying on Twitter lately about this whole anti-capitalism stuff. Would you like to come talk about it on this show that I want to do? And I'm like, oh my god,
pretty much.
My stupid ramblings on Twitter.com. They're getting me somewhere. Look, I finally made it.
Listen, I've been trying to think about okay, who do I know that works in creative industries specifically and has first-hand experience in those creative industries and also fucking hates their guts. So obviously you're a top contender. So I want to start this show by sort of talking about what are our personal experiences working in various media. Now, I mostly have experience working in small independent media. I, do lots of stuff for Studio June. Actually, I'm currently working with Studio June and a sort of offshoot game studio run by another friend to make a non-Homestuck game. So for all of you who like video games but don't like my constant, play Friend Sim 2, you don't know this world, but you should play it. Keep your eyes peeled for something fun and exciting from Studio June. I've done lots of work for different games, student films, all scores and stuff. And I've done a decent amount of work in small independent theater. Back when I was still living in Ithaca, I worked for a small theater company called Walking on Water, where I did some orchestrations and some mixing and whatnot. And now in the city, I work for a small independent theater company called Unattended Baggage. We are currently putting on a show at the Players Theater this August.
Oh, that's so
cool. If any of you are in the New York area and want to see Cowgirl at the Players Theater, it's going to be a great time. But all of my professional experience in the world of creating stuff has been for small companies. So yeah, what types of media have you worked for? I know you've done some independent stuff, but you've also done some stuff with professional media, corporate commercial media, right?
Oh yeah, corporate commercial, definitely the words that are the most accurate. I will start chronologically. Because I think that'll be easiest. Chronologically. So I've been playing music ever since I was 6 years old. Piano is my primary instrument. I'm vocally trained and I perform on guitar and ukulele and stuff. I write music. I write lyrics. I've just been doing that as a constant throughout my whole life. I started in theater when I was in like 13. I did a butt ton of community theater, an even butter ton of theater in high school, because I went to a very small high school. It was just me and like group of queers who didn't know they were queer yet doing all the theater. And then in college is when I got into doing music for podcasts. Some of my closest friends that I have today in my life are people that I met by doing a podcast at one time or another, or sometimes multiple podcasts, depending on the friend. And in doing podcasts, I started with voice acting. I also started with writing music for shows. And if you've ever heard of like a handful of obscure little audio dramas that never really made it past season 2 of their shows, or even sometimes season 1, chances are I probably did some music for it at one time or another. And then I also started getting into writing for the stage, writing for film as well. In undergrad, I took some screenwriting courses. I started taking film courses because I thought a career in film, if not specifically a career in music, then I think a career that was film or film adjacent would also be really good for me. So I started taking film writing classes and film studies, film history, and I started amalgamating my passions and talents for making music into my newfound passion for writing and wanting to make films. So when the end of college came around, I was trying to think about what sort of things I could do for like possibly a job. And this was also when this was like right before a little thingy happened in the trajectory of human history that I think we all know. But I decided to go to grad school. So did Anna. We both decided to go to grad school when the world was dying of a pandemic. And
listen, what were we supposed to do? Sit around and watch the world like
the world
fucking
was
rot?
ending. I guess I should go to grad
Honestly,
school.
my mental health would have been in the fucking toilet if I had taken a second gap year.
I think everybody in our class did it for the reasons that were best for them. And we got through it. Oh, yeah, we got through it. That's for damn sure. But then I started to also get jobs in the professional film and TV industry. Fun fact, this is lesson number 1 in my greater spiel for this episode. But first off, I got my first ever film job by being judged on not what I know, but who I know. I wouldn't go as far to call myself a nepotism baby because this person is not my parent. She's my aunt. And I think it'll just make more sense when I explain it. But anyway, after having moved out to Jersey and doing grad school in the New York area, we were like, I was just trying to get my foot in the door for film jobs because I was doing work on short films for my roommate and her college classmates at the time. So I'd already had set experience with like some diddly shits who are just trying to make a student thesis film. And so I had talked to my aunt who had been in the industry for a very long time. It was like her whole thing. She was always like my aunt who lived far away and always worked on movies and stuff. I always thought she had a bigger job than she did, but she works in the art department. So she's an art department coordinator, which is like an office type job in charge of a lot of, just basic art type things for whatever project she was working on. That's what she does a lot of now. So she got me into contact with one of her best friends from doing movies, and she was doing art on a low budget indie film. And I don't know why it was low budget in indie film when the cast was Dustin Hoffman and Diana Agron. But anyway, she got me into talks with her friend who was in the art department for that movie. And she was like, hey, my sister's kid is looking to get into the film industry. Here's the thing. If you have a job available for this 21-year-old or 22-year-old, that's great. If you don't worry about it. And if you do give Benny a job, fire her if you need to. I don't care that she's related to me. If she does a bad job, fire her. And I was like, thanks, Aunt Leah. for all the words of encouragement. But yeah, I got onto that film set and I had a wonderful time. It paid shit. The hours were shit. And my department was so monstrously downsized that I was doing so much more work for different departments than I actually legally should have been doing. But that's just what you do on a small indie budget and indie set. But whatever. Anyway, after that, I had decided to stick around in the industry while also still going to school. I obviously had to put a lot of set jobs off to the side or delay them or tell people no. When they came to like offer me a few things, it was always like PA gigs from people who liked me.
I didn't know you were getting offers while we were still in school.
Oh yeah, I got.
Shit.
Again, I don't say this as like I was getting offers while we were in school. Like, bitch. Nah, people just wanted me to come be a PA on like 2 days for a TV show, 2 weeks for a film, something. Nothing way too consistent. I had more gigs because that's also when I started working at a bar near my home, because that was more consistent money and I could do that on the weekends, and instead of having to worry about trying to find set jobs because those don't film on weekends, and that's the only time I had free. So I also started being a DoorDasher during that time too, in the pause between set gigs. But anyway, I worked on that first film was called As They Made Us, written and directed by Mayim Bialik. And then the thing I did after that was, I think it was season 3 of the Paramount Plus show FBI Most Wanted. I had like 2 weeks on that where I like made some friends and worked with old coworkers from the film. And I was learning just like a lot of stuff about the industry and how to get jobs and what department I want to be in and other things, and what a kind of future I could see for myself in there and how I would have to pursue it. And fast forward to when we graduated back in 2022, that was when I was like unemployed for a long time, and my mental health also went, and I didn't get work until I had an offer to jump on a spinoff of The Walking Dead called Dead City. Stupidest name for a show ever. Don't cut that out. I want my truth to be known. Dead City, where I worked in the props department, and I stayed in that place for a year, and it hurt me. And now I'm out, and I'm gone. Now I'm here.
I saw your angry tweets when you quit.
Yeah, and the angry TikTok.
I think I saw the angry TikTok too. Wait, so are you regularly making TikToks again?
No. No. I may have quit my job, but we're not going crazy.
So there are a lot of fucking issues. There's a lot of fucking issues with commercial and corporate media.
Yeah.
So there's so many issues. I want to hear your firsthand account of how poorly you were treated in commercial/corporate media. Because we can, I can talk about what I've seen online about the WGA strike, what I've seen online about the way people are treated, but you have firsthand experience.
I do. And oh God, I'm so loud about that firsthand experience, but I gotta be. Because
it's important to be loud. If you're not loud, people will just sort of let this shit happen because they don't know what's happening.
It is exactly. That's exactly why. And on top of that, there are so many things that get said in the professional TV and film industry that just sound so abhorrently awful, and nobody knows how fucked up it sounds. It feels like the friend who always negative self-talks, because it's just so normalized for them to say, like, yeah, it's been about 5.5 months since I've actually gotten to see any of my family, but maybe I can make a holiday work if I don't have another job lined up. Imagine that's just your standard. First off, 5.5 months is like on average when you don't get to see either your closest loved ones or your family or whatever. That's just things people acknowledge. People talk about the fact that at times you can come in for, this is also production office specific. I want the record to show that set hours are wild because every day in the industry, it's a 12-hour day. And you're lucky if it's a little bit shorter. It's typical if it's a little bit longer, depending on the way some ships are being run recently. So to give you a full length of time from when the Walking Dead show started, when that job started, it wasn't that one show the whole way through. Dead City, stupidest name for a show. Dead City went from June to November. That's when we wrapped. And as soon as we wrapped, literally the new production team was coming in for the next Walking Dead spinoff called Walking Dead Rick and Michonne, because it's about Rick and Michonne, the two main characters.
How many fucking Walking Dead spinoffs do there need to be?
Too many.
Genuine question, who is watching all of these Walking Dead spinoffs?
So many shows about the walking zombies. Yeah, I worked 60-hour work weeks from late June of 2022 to mid-May 2023.
Oh, God.
12.
I mean,
12
at
hour
least
days.
you, can pay your rent, I guess.
Not easily. Because remember, I was in financial dire straits before getting this job. So it's not like I had a lot already put away. I was rebuilding from a lot of debt and debt that I still owe. So I would like the record to show that even though I had this really nice $1,000 a week paying job, still didn't really change much.
$1,000 a week.
It made life a little bit easier, but I can only emphasize this as the most morbidly depressing fact that even making $1,000 a week, your problems are still probably not going to be solved. It's bad out there. It's bad out there, man. But yeah, so monetarily, some people would say, oh, how bad could your job in the industry be? Because you're still making a lot of money every single week. And I would say, first off, why do you sound like that? Your voice is weird. Second, bro, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it if you wanted to be treated nicely. But yes, I will elaborate on the shit things that happened to me in that office. I would like the record to show that before I say anything about my time on The Walking Dead, one, I'm not going to be violating any NDAs. This is not what this is about. The actions that people perform and the way people behave in the industry, that's not locked behind any NDAs. If you're shit, if you're a shit person, I get to say so. And that's what this is about. I also don't want this to be seen as I'm complaining about the fact that all of my work in the industry, I've been pretty much at the lowest of the low, because I've always just been a PA. On set and also in the production office, I've always just been a PA. And when I say the lowest of the low, it's literally like a chain of command, because that's the way a lot of modern businesses are formed, both to good and bad extents, mostly bad. But I can see some good to a hierarchy system, just not like this. So I don't care that I was the lowest of the low. I would never attach my ego to a job. Could you imagine walking around this God's green earth saying, I feel like I'm more important than you because I'm an executive producer and I actually make more taxable income than you, so I'm better. That's embarrassing.
I fucking wish it wasn't so easy to attach your ego to a job, though, because, believe me, I've walked around thinking that I'm the scum of the earth because I work service jobs, you know?
Mm-hmm. We're scum of the earth for other reasons, not because of what jobs we've had.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm scum of the earth for all of my very own special, unique reasons. And that's my whole thing about not attaching my ego to my job, because I'm if I'm going to brag about myself about what kind of job I have, that really doesn't say anything about me. I didn't somehow claim to be, I didn't talk about myself. I'm just saying I make money. I work this job. but I'm not actually reflecting on any of my personal qualities. Wouldn't I rather be smart or kind or generous or patient or something? Why would you rather be a director when you could just be nice?
People have got to stop asking people what they do. You know, like...
Actually, fun fact, if you have a job, that's the least interesting thing about you.
I know. Like, if people ask me what I do, it's like, what's the answer?
Exactly.
Like, if you ask me what I do, it's like, okay, I work front of house at a couple theaters.
Yeah.
That's not interesting. Don't you want to hear about my musical? Don't you want to hear about my YouTube channel? Don't you want to hear about, like, the album I just released on Bandcamp, Gamer Girl Floodwater? Check it out, please.
Very flawless self-insert. That was good. It's great.
There will be plenty of chance for you to promo your projects, too.
What projects? I am in my happy little hermit stage. I'm hermiting. I'm indulging in things that I like, and I'm mentally recovering from this job. I'm working on.
Don't you have plenty of
nothing.
things already on Bandcamp that you can promo, though?
Not that I actually really want to. I don't want to promo myself right now. I'm tired.
Okay, that's fair. But if somebody buys your album on Bandcamp, perhaps during a Bandcamp Friday event, so you get all of the proceeds from it, then that's one less thing you have to worry, one less meal you have to worry about buying, you know?
That is fair. That is fair. I will not control people whether or not they can go to my Bandcamp, go to my Spotify. Link down below.
Let's talk about the WGA strike.
Yeah.
Have you seen the people on Twitter talking about how much they make on their royalties? If they get royalties?
If they get royalties at all, yes. I've actually been very closely following Adam Conover and all of his coverage for the WGA strike, both East and West Coast. He's been hopping around. But Adam Conover and other writers similar to him and like at his level have been spreading a lot of good information, have been picketing and supporting the strike and doing the Lord's work. So yes, I've thankfully been caught very up to date on the abysmal rate of pay for royalties for especially writers who worked on streaming shows. It's
pennies.
Yeah,
pennies. These writers are making the equivalent amount of money that I make on my tiny ass YouTube channel on professional ass Netflix shows.
Yeah.
Like,
a
that blows my
show.
fucking mind. Why do I make about as much money daily on my YouTube channel that these people are getting in their fucking royalty checks?
Yeah, it's I'm not going to say dystopian because...
No, it's fucking dystopian.
I don't want to say dystopian because I fear for my life when it comes to Hunger Games fans and Divergent fans. But it's very close. It's very close, isn't it? It's definitely not... Oh, what's the word? Fair? I don't know how we got to a place where fairness has just been thrown to the walls. But do you want to know something super fun, though, about the strike?
Tell me.
So, you know how when a writer's strike happens, and this is going to tie into my treatment in The Office, which I will elaborate on with specific details, firsthand experiences, but specifically with the strike, on set and in The Office, when a strike begins, for people who don't know, when a strike begins, once the WJ has said, all right, we're striking until our needs get met, it is the duty of every active union production, set, office, what have you, to stop writing. If, like, solidarity, you don't write, projects get shut down, projects get delayed. That's the whole point until negotiations are made and conclusions have been come to. And then everybody can start back up work again. Hopefully things are better. But in the meantime, no writing. So here's the thing. When you work in a production office, part of your office-ly duties is to transport, print, prepare, email so many scripts, so many documents, call sheets, location maps, lots of paper waste. There is so much paper waste in the film industry. Anyway, we have to constantly be sending out pages for full entire scripts, last minute rewrites, long time rewrites. But basically, we send out a lot of drafts and revisions of scripts. That takes up like the bulk of our printing priorities. And when the strike had happened, I was like, oh, well, at least that means at work we're no longer going to be getting rewrites at the last minute. We're no longer going to be having mornings where we're rushing trying to get rewrites sent to set so that the shooting crew can get them, because we can't do any rewrites. No writing. Otherwise, that'd make you a scab. But here's the thing. Something I noticed is that as time went on and the strike was definitely happening, I saw many rewrites coming through the production office and getting set to set, especially when we had reshoots. Specifically, here's the thing. Every show, every production anticipates time for reshoots. It's just how it works. And sometimes you can just do it's not crossing the picket line if you're just filming something that you had written before the strike happened, as long as you're just not writing new material to be produced during the strike. So when I knew that we were doing reshoots at the very end of the last block, I was anticipating that they were just going to be reshooting things from scripts they had already had. But no, they wrote new scenes to do during the reshoots. They did not go and reshoot.
Who was doing that?
The team of The Walking Dead, Rick and Michonne. They are scabs. They crossed the line. They wrote when the strike was happening. Don't watch their show. Don't watch their stupid fucking zombie show.
You heard it here. Don't watch the stupid fucking zombie show, everyone.
Don't watch the stupid fucking zombie show. Everybody from the set, everybody in the stars, like everybody in the cast, everybody on set, everybody in the office, we all got paid already. We all got paid. You don't have to watch the show to ensure our success. We'll be fine. We're all fine. Oh my God. Boycotts work. Stop watching things. Anyway, but yeah, they definitely crossed the line. They definitely wrote during the strike. Don't watch their show. But this is a very important thing I noticed, and sort of surprising, mostly disappointing thing that I had seen in the office during the start of the strike, especially leading up to the strike. And when it started, I saw a very sour attitude from coworkers towards the strikers. Now, it is perfectly natural to be a little frustrated if the strike is going to mess up your schedule, put a little bit of strain on the production. Again, that's the point. It is not intentional to hurt workers or hurt the productions. It's a necessary evil, so to say. But I'm like, that's the whole point of striking. Disrupt normalcy until changes are made. So if you're upset about that, it's okay to be a little perturbed, but, like, stand strong. I heard people say, fuck them writers. I heard people, not just people, I actually didn't hear people above me say that. This was a thing I was hearing from people who were near my level of status. It was like other PAs and production secretaries that were like, fuck them writers. All they want to do is just get more money for their cushy-ass jobs that they already have too much money for, and they are just causing headaches for our production.
People don't realize how little writers make.
People don't realize how little writers make.
I saw like someone on Tumblr talking about, they were saying how like Neil Gaiman is striking in the writer's strike. And they were like, doesn't he make enough money? Why is he? It's like, this is solidarity.
Okay, first off, Neil Gaiman does not make enough money. He probably doesn't make as much money as you think he deserves. He deserves more.
Yeah, seriously.
I think the most depressing thing about hearing what I heard in the office was that sentiment came from somebody who wanted to be a writer themselves. And that was the most. I hate that. I had read some of their material. Like, they had shared it with me. They even came to see my play and asked if they could read my script. This is a person very passionate about writing. And to hear them say, fuck them writers, because they think it's just because they're rich and they want to get richer, and instead are just asking for equal and fair treatment and pay. It's like, that's so disappointing. And there was, other than the fact that the show literally wrote during the strike, wrote new material and filmed that new material, it was just a very snarky attitude towards the WGA strike overall. it was a lot of, they're picketing again. Well, let's just hope they don't picket us. Or people hear about other projects going on in the New York City area, the metro area, that are being picketed. And they're like, oh, glad it's not us. And we're like, ew, every single one of you would have crossed the picket line if a picket had showed up at our office the very next day. Guarantee all of y'all would have. Me, I'm always looking for a reason not to go into work. Would you like to continue about the WGA strike, or would you like me to recount some specific instances of office culture?
I want to hear some specifics. I want to hear like exactly how shit, because like honestly, like we can talk about the stuff that we hear about all we want, but there's only so many opportunities where I'm going to have some real life accounts of poor treatment on my thingy.
Yeah. I would like to say, so a lot of my negative opinions about the industry largely stem from the first and only office-related job I had. So in the industry, obviously, it's pretty cleanly cut between people who work in the production office and people who work on set. A lot of people who work on set are much more like in unions and other things. And in the office, it's a different picture because you have a lot of people there's still a lot of union workers in the production offices themselves, but they're kind of different. And, there's accounting departments that are just there to help make money and like manage the money and all that stuff. And there's a lot of PAs, and there's no union for PAs. So a lot of people in the office themselves are also non-union. A lot of my negative opinions about the industry and production office culture, so to say, comes from this most recent job. And it wasn't even when I was in the props section of this production office. I would like to say it was two different shows, but it was the same office. When I had started in the props office, it wasn't that bad. Actually, I thought it was worse at the time because in the props office was very big because we had to store a lot of things, but it was also very dead because the props office was just 3 people when it comes to the office. The PA, that's me, our shopper, her duty was to literally source props, buy them, bring them to scenics and art people to change them and make them look nice or look different. And then our prop master, the person who was just in charge of it all. But yeah, so I was in the props office, and it was a little bit lonely because the shopper, she was so sweet and we were actually pretty good friends, but she was out a lot and she fought a lot with our boss. And I thought that, this boss is just kind of rough around the edges. The office has been very nice, and it's been a very good place, and I've had a very good time with it so far. So I don't think having one bad boss should sour the entirety of the production office for me. And that's why when that show wrapped and I was offered to join the next show, but no longer in props, literally as a production office PA, right underneath goes like the executive producers, the line producers, the production managers, the production coordinators, assistant production coordinators, production secretary, production office PA. So I was in the chain of command for producers, which was exciting because I was like, more pay, a more serious job, getting to interact with the serious people, all that good stuff. That's when I started to notice things. That's when I started to notice the fact that, fun fact, a movie production office or a TV show production office, it's just an office. When you see a movie like Office Space and there's like different departments of people all sitting at their little desks doing who knows what, they all get told they're doing something productive or need to be doing something productive to help the greater machine, the greater office at large function coherently. But everybody just sort of is like milling about, maybe not entirely knowing what they're doing. And some people are just really fucking sick and tired of it, and it shows. That's what a production office is like.
Oh, boy.
The fact that it's in TV and film does not make it any cooler, does not make it any more fun. Sometimes sometimes if you're like, oh, every now and then I get to see a celebrity, or every now and then I get to go visit set, or I get to work with like directors and producers, like sometimes the glitz and the appeal has a little bit of like charm to it, but that is a very, very poorly painted on veneer to what is literally just an office. It's just an office environment. I was a body at a desk at a computer, just doing my little office duties, because my job revolved around cost reports and accounting, like in cachet. Every production office PA knows what cachet is. We all have to deal with that demon. We all got to fight our battles. But yeah, I had to do a lot of office-related duties. Getting lunches every day was one of my biggest priorities. Going to the post office, picking up and dropping off FedEx packages, doing mail runs and package runs throughout the building and bringing them to other departments. I was put in charge every day of going to get lunches. Like for a period of my day, I had to leave and go get lunches. That was pretty much the biggest part of my day, believe it or not. And I want to get on to my first point. All of this hubble-baloo to say my first point about the nightmare that is the production office is lunch. And you might think, oh, is this just a weird hatred towards a meal in the day? No, it actually has a lot to do with the culture of infantilization that still exists within production offices. Like, Anna, I'm sure you're familiar with seeing how you are put under a lot of expectations and a lot of specific requirements to do your job and do your job right. But then you sometimes notice that people above you are just like, they have their own things to be doing, but you're like, is your job really that much harder than mine? Sure, it's different and it might be more important, but it's like difference, importance, and effort value are three very different things when it comes to defining what a job is and what you do for that job. Being a PA is very laborious. There's a lot of tasks. There's a lot of travel. There's a lot of little details. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of movement throughout the day, whereas other jobs seem to be more stationary. Other jobs seem to be a little more clerical. I would never say that directors and ADs have easier jobs. I don't think it's a matter of saying who has it easy or who has it hard. But difficulty-wise, man, just being a PA is being put through the ringer every single day and having to be okay
So
with
it's
it.
like any corporate structure
It's like
where
any
the
corporate
people who are
structure.
working their ass off are the people in customer service, the people doing food service, the people at the bottom actually interacting with people and selling your fucking product. But it's the fucking CEOs and like regional managers and like those people who actually get a fucking salary and healthcare and money.
Exactly. And I don't say this as like a blind hatred towards them and claiming that they don't do as much or they don't do as a laborious of a job. Let me just say, though, there are things and behaviors that I have seen from these people in these positions that can strongly imply that maybe during the day they're not always that busy. And I'll tell you why. So here's the thing about lunch. Lunch was one of the most strenuous, hardest parts of my days, especially during production before we start shooting a block of episodes. That's what we refer to when we're in pre-production. We're in prep mode, and we have like prep schedules going out, and we have tech scouts and other things. And this involves a lot of bodies in the office, a lot of people to be on top of. And one of the most basic, universal, most easily anticipated aspects of working either on set or in a production office is knowing that lunch is a guaranteed part of your day, and there is a certain amount of responsibility you need to take within yourself to make sure you go get your fucking lunch, that you're legally obligated to sit down and fucking eat. I say this because in an office, it's typically customary, it's sort of easiest to just make a little Google form or send out an email at the start of every day, or even if it's that kind of place, somebody can just go around and get people's orders. But so many people are moving, so many people have to talk to so many other people and do so many other things that just going around and like getting lunch orders from everybody is a little too hard. So we do it vastly digitally these days. A lot of production offices just do it digitally, and we get lunch forms emailed out to people every day. My job as a PA was to record their orders in the form that they filled out, submit the orders online, and if it's delivery, just be around for when it gets delivered and distribute it. Or if it's a place that doesn't do deliveries or a little too far, one of the PAs has to go and drive and get it and come back and then distribute to everybody. Note that lunches are, first off, distributed. And by distributed, I mean handed out. It was my job in the office to get back with lunches and not tell people, hey, lunch is here, come and grab it. I have to bring it to them. And I'm like, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does add a lot of time onto what is a very lengthy process. And you're like, how long could lunch be? Well, first off, lunch does not start at when you start eating. Lunch starts when you send out the lunch email in the morning, because as soon as the lunch email goes out, they're like, hey, please fill out this form. Let us know what you want to eat from this place we're ordering from today. Please let us know by 10:30. This is a free lunch you're being given. For this free lunch, all we ask you do is fill out this form, tell us what you want, how much it costs, and submit it by 10:30 a.m. And this is in an office where people's 12 hours usually start around 8:30 or 9. We have a lunch form and we have a time that says, please submit this by 10:30 so that we can order on time and get lunch here by lunchtime. If you don't fill out that form by 10:30, Anna, what would you expect would happen?
You wouldn't get lunch, right?
You wouldn't get lunch. Wrong. Incorrect. If you don't submit by 10:30, it is now my job. B, it is now my job to track you down. I am not kidding. To find you and contact you. More often than not, I could just call somebody, send a text, or send an email. But I swear to God, there have been days where 10:30 passes, half of the lunch list is missing, and most of the people whose lunch orders are not accounted for are the most important people in the office. Executive producers, the showrunner, the stars. Like literally Rick and Michonne were in the office some days because they were executive producers on this show. It's their show with their characters. They were in the office some days. I would like to say, Andrew J. Lincoln, you are the kindest man on the face of the earth. The guy who plays Rick from The Walking Dead. One of the sweetest little guys. Just a dude. Just a nice dude. But yeah, some of the lunch orders that are missing are from the most important people in the office. And listen, if you mess up an order, there are a lot of things that can go wrong in that step. In addition to people ordering late, there are people that can put in their order wrong or not put in their order in time. But basically, if I messed up an order in any way, like if somebody's order didn't show up, or somebody got the wrong food, here's the reaction on the scale. If it were my lunch, if it were a PA's lunch, nobody cares. It's a pretty easy fix. Honestly, lunches are actually a very easy fix. If one of my higher-ups' lunches gets mixed up, they're a little annoyed, but ultimately they're not going to be way too mad about it if they're nice. And then if you mess up a production manager's lunch, that's bad territory. That's a lunch you don't want to mess up. I was so lucky. Both of our production managers were very kind, very reasonable people. You mess up a producer's lunch order, an AD, God forbid you mess up an executive producer or the showrunner himself, Scott Gimple. If you mess up their lunches, you better hope it's the last time you mess up their lunches. Oh my God. I did not fear for my life in that office until I had to tell my boss, hey boss, so I messed up Christy's lunch. We got her the salad when she actually ordered the falafel pita. I went to go talk to her. She says she's okay with the falafel pita. She seemed really cool with it. And then my boss would be like, oh, okay, that's fine. But she says it with death in her eyes. And one singular time, I had messed up somebody's order on a day where there was like 20. Oh, I would also like to say, on average, the amount of lunch orders we had to be in charge of on a day could range from 12 to the 40s.
Jesus.
Imagine one day you're like, oh, I only have 8 meals to take care of. That's my team and like the 2 producers that are in today. And then other days during prep, you have 30 to 40 fucking lunches that you need to all get right. Every single one of them. Whether it's you making a mistake, the restaurant making a mistake, you better pray they're all right. Because on those days, boy, was my heart beating. Oh, boy, was I speeding when I had to go pick up lunches. There was one day where I messed up in order for one of the most important people, one of the producers that was on basically the same level as the showrunner himself. That person whose order got messed up, she is one of the nicest people on the planet. She is so patient and she is so kind and good-hearted and always in a good mood. She was not upset about this at all. But then I came up to my boss later. I had asked her a question. This was like 2 hours after lunch had happened and she hadn't said anything. But 2 hours later, I came up to ask her a question about some packages I had to drop off. I'm like, I'm good to go drop those off at like 5 or something, right? She's like, yep. Oh, and by the way, B. And I turn back and I'm like, yeah. She says, about lunch, never again.
Oh, God.
That is all she said. And I said,
that's terrifying.
and I know this is a podcast, you can't see my face, but Anna, you saw my face when I said that. That's exactly how she looked at me. Like, never again. Never
shit.
again, I was told. Holy shit, over a lunch.
The person didn't even care.
Here's the thing. As you answered so coherently earlier, what would you expect to happen if you didn't put in your lunch order on time? You didn't get a lunch. And I cannot stress enough that on top of the severity of always having to do this one task right every single day, never accounting for human error should be either avoided at all cost or fired. Not only was there that time limit, but even though we had the time limit, if you didn't submit it, it was now my job to go and find you. And sometimes the latest we had gotten orders in was noon. And we usually like getting lunch in the office by noon 30. Yikers. Lunch is going to be a little delayed, guys, because, one of the producers locked himself in the bathroom, and that's our current emergency that we have to deal with. That literally happened. Every single office had a private bathroom, and one of our producers locked himself inside of it by accident.
Like accidentally, or he just really had to shit?
Accidentally. I would assume it was post to shit. But yeah, he was locked in there for a good amount of time. Anyway, I have to stop myself there about the lunch thing. Otherwise, I'll never get to any other awful thing that happened in this fucking office. So other than the topic of lunch, let me wrap it up in a traumatized little bow and say this. A lot of culture and work ethic in the production office environment has not changed or significantly improved pre or post pandemic. The hierarchy is still there, striving as hard as ever. The disappointing truth is that so many people are so unhappy in this field, and they're not creative people themselves often. More often than not, you're just working with a bunch of people who are good at working in an office, and it happens to be for TV and film. You're not working with other creatives. The standards to which other people have to live up to versus the ones you're expected to live up to is one of the most visible and disheartening differences I've ever seen. I worked under 2 production coordinators who very early on in this, at least when I was on the second show as a production office PA, I verifiably witnessed cold hard evidence that they were drinking on the job in the office consistently for months. And I was like, damn, has this been going on since Dead City? And it's happening again now. But like, I don't know. This is all I noticed is that there was a stash of alcohol in the storage area behind my desk. And after it had been moved, I once saw it again stashed away near one of my production coordinator's desks in a bag that was always sticking out of her drawer, always taunting me. And there were multiple days during the week where she would make drinks for herself and also for our collective boss and our other production coordinator. This was a thing that continued on for a very long time and actually started to cause problems with productivity in the office. And it led to a very bad point where nobody was hurt, nothing bad ever happened, but my personal treatment as a human was beyond substandard. And a lot of hypocrisy and lack of understanding and treatment as a human is what I was given in that office. And I just hope to people who are currently working in those offices either get out of there and find something better or just move on entirely. And speaking of moving on entirely, let's talk about some independent creation. You mentioned that.
Yeah, let's talk about independent media.
Woohoo.
So, corporate media fucking sucks. People are treated horribly. Nobody is paid for the amount of money that is being made on these things.
Slay.
We didn't even touch on how, like, Netflix will cancel shows on a whim because it's not doing, like, absolutely amazingly. I watched a YouTube video recently about, like, why exactly they canceled Inside Job after renewing it. Because the second half of the season didn't hit the top 10, so it's not worth it to make season 2, even though season 2 had already started production. I don't know. The way that streaming services treat cartoons specifically pisses me off so much. Every cartoon I like has been canceled, and it has either been a detriment to the end of the cartoon, or the cartoon just hasn't gotten a net. Makes me real mad. But so, like, all right, what's the other option if you're not going to make your vision happen through some avenue like Netflix or a like traditional TV network or a traditional film studio or something? What are you going to do? Well, you do independent media. The problem with independent media
is a lot.
Is there's no fucking money in it.
Yeah, there's just no money to be found.
I mentioned earlier I work for a small theater company called Unattended Baggage. They're real great. You should check them out if you like experimental and DIY theater. Their whole thing is they want to, like, you know, make theater more accessible. One of our things was a series of immersive plays that is sent to you through the mail. We did that in February. It was the love letter plays.
That's so cool.
So, like, we do a lot of, we try to make things accessible. The thing with making things accessible is you're not making a profit off of them.
No, you're very much
If you have a show that is, you know, in the basement of a small theater and the tickets are like $20, so you're not breaking the bank to see it like you would to see a Broadway show. The ticket price basically just covers the cost of the venue, you know? No one's making any money. The people who create the shows not making any money. I'm working on this show, Cowgirl, at the Players Theater. I am the general manager of it. It is, you know, technically an off-Broadway show. It's in an off-Broadway theater.
Congratulations.
I am making a few $100s off of this. And this is no shade to Sean or anyone else involved in Unattended Baggage. There is no money in this.
Then
the
that's
budget
something you
is
all know.
Tiny. Like, no matter, like, you are not going to be making more than $300 working on a small show like this. This is just part of the game. And, like, you know, other independent theater stuff I've done, it's like I was paid $200 to mix an hour's worth of stuff for a virtual show back in Ithaca. Again, no shade to the company at all. It's a small company. There's no big money sponsors behind it. Like, if there are any sponsors behind any of these small companies, they're like local businesses who donate basically enough money to hire venues. Because there's so many moving parts in these things. It's not just actors, not just directors, but, like, you know, all of the set designers, all the props, all the lighting designers. Every single thing costs money. This thing racks up, like, even a small production can rack up $10,000 plus easily. And that's just with every person being paid a couple $100s. So if you want to get into media and you want, like, creating things to be your career, if you want to get into theater, if you want to get into video games, if you want to get into, like, independently created YouTube series, things like that, like, you're not going to make a living off of this. So you have to get another job or two or three.
You have to go do a little capitalism.
Like, you can't live your life as an independent media creator.
Man cannot live on media alone.
It's just physically impossible. I know Jonaya has talked about these numbers publicly, so I'm not going to, I'm not like spreading any of Studio June's secrets, but so we paid $50 per route for voice actors on Friendsim 2.
Cool.
We thought when we were starting this, $50, like, okay, this is a non-commercial project. This is all out of Jonaya's pocket. We were like, okay, $50 per thing. That feels pretty low, but this is a non-commercial product. There's no contracts. There's no like commercial usage rights here. $50 seems fair. Mm-hmm. This is standard. I don't know how often you've been looking for voice auditions lately. I know you do some voice acting, but I don't know how like actively you've gone and searched for VA auditions.
Not as of late.
It's pretty standard. Like, if you're looking for indie video game voice work, like $50 for a couple hundred lines, like, there's a reason we got 300 auditions. Because if you got that $50 on there, people will run towards you. I mean, a lot of those auditions were like young people who like Homestuck who'd never voice acted before. But we also had a lot of like legitimately established indie game voice actors. A lot who we had to reject because we got so many of them. We got a really good spread. Speaking about indie versus corporate media, you want to know something really sad?
Oh, God. You know, I love knowing sad things.
I heard that Netflix only pays their writers $200 per pilot, per spec script for a pilot. Guess how much Jonaya paid me to write Volume 2 of Friendsim 2?
How much?
$200. I got paid as much as Netflix pays by a small indie game company that's not even making a profit off of the game.
Bro, inexcusable. Good for Jonaya. Inexcusable, Netflix. Inexcusable.
When we first were discussing pay for writing, like, Jonaya felt really bad that she was only paying $200 per route. She wished she could give more. She is planning on paying more when we go commercial. Like, my composing rate is going to double when we start working on commercial games.
That's exciting. And that's also the logical next step. It's what you should be aiming for.
My rent is near $1,000 a month. I'm sure yours is pretty similar.
Damn, Skippy.
Like, I appreciate all of these small indie projects I work on so much.
Yeah.
They can never pay the bills.
Nope.
And that is the biggest problem with independent media.
Yes, the biggest problem with independent media, reminding the key word here is indie-fucking-pendent. Yes, all of this money either has to come from unconventional sources, God forbid yourself. That's just not the way it goes with commercial media. But on the topic of independent media, I would also want to talk about or like share my own experience with producing my one-act play that also,
Ooh.
yeah, it was in the theater realm, obviously being a one-act play, part of a festival in New York City, and it was technically my off-Broadway debut as a writer and director, which was really cool. And the only reason why I knew I could work on producing this play if it got submitted or accepted into the festival was because of the job I was working, being able to pay me at the weekly rate they were paying me. I crunched the numbers and determined I could actually pull this off, put it on, and pay my actors. I would like to say it's not easy to want to pay your actors and then realize you have a show with 7 characters in it. And you're like, oh, I gotta pay 7 bitches. Oh, I gotta pay 7 of these assholes.
Independently, like, self-produced theater is, like, you can't do that. Like, I mean, yeah, you can do it alone. You just have to save for months and months and months, or hope to God you have parents who can pitch. Maka cost $1,000 to put on, and I wouldn't have been able to do it if it wasn't for my parents and Jonaya and a handful of people who donated to our GoFundMe. Thank you all so much for that. We would not have been able to afford it otherwise.
Exactly. So not only did I reason I had enough money to pay people because of the job I was saving up from, but specifically, this was a show that said, if you get people to buy tickets online with this discount code, the amount that comes off from the discount will be split from the box office to you. First off, not only was there money from my own pocket and the prospect of more money coming from this theater, because this was not a guarantee of how much money I was going to make from the discount codes. It's a possibility, but there's no like guaranteed amount of money that you'll make from that. It's really all up in the air. And so I had a base rate that I was going to pay my actors. I'm like, okay, between the 7 of you, I can pay you each a baseline of $50 standard. And again, as soon as people were told it's paid and it's $50, they're like, I'll do it. I'll do it. And another thing about independent media is that often the people you go to help make these things real are your best friends or people you've worked with or people you already fucking know. You don't magically get swept up into some workshop or some production agency or where people are just going to like do it for you. You just got to call up the peeps you know and say, hey, you're cool. Do this thing with me. I'll pay you. And then they say yes. And that's great. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I like it. I had told everybody, I'm like, okay, you each get $50 a pop. On top of that, not only was I the writer and director, but I was also pretty much a producer because I had to buy props. I had to source costumes. But anyway, yeah, I sunk costs into this. And not knowing a single cent of how much I was going to make from the discount codes, I was so astounded to know that we made basically $300 from discount codes. It was wonderful. Great. Thank you to everybody who came and used the code. And How to Disappear Completely made $300, and between all 7 of them, that was around a bonus of $35 I could give to each of them. I didn't keep any of that money. All of the ticket sales went to my cast.
And like, that's really great. But at the same time, like,
how is anybody else supposed to do that?
It takes so much work for an independently produced show to make a profit of a few $100s. It takes so much work to get there. And, you know, to make rent, those actors would have to be being in like 12 different shows at the same time on something like that. Like,
yeah, and
that is what sucks so much.
And
like, the way we can fix this is to lower cost of living, but obviously we don't have control over that.
We don't have control over that. And actually, let me step our toes back into the idea of the big picture, the big corporate money machine that is the entertainment industry for TV and film and how they operate with money. And then also use that to inspire some constructive ideas and things that can be done from our level that we can actually have control over and how we change our course. So one of the biggest things I learned in working in The Walking Dead was not only that production offices are just regular offices, they just happen to be for a TV show, or they happen to be for a movie. Not only are they just regular offices, but they recognize that the thing they are making, while, yes, The Walking Dead is a TV show, it's entertainment, it's a thing people choose to watch. That's not how a network views a show. A network does not view a show as a show. A show is a product. In just the same way that Apple makes an iPhone and tries to sell you that product, shows made on a commercial level are products. That is not a slam. That's not inherently a bad thing. It's just how it works. Which is why things that we so love and think are so good get cut because numbers don't stack up. And that is because at that level, you know they operate within the hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars per budget. And that can be a budget per episode, that can be a budget per season, but they operate with huge numbers. This is something we know. Even an AMC network show is still operating within the tens of thousands to hundred thousands of dollars for budgets for things like travel, food and supplies, crafty. There's budgets upon budgets upon budgets upon budgets. Everything that goes into a show that you see on a network, that you see on a streaming channel, it's a product. It is a product made by a machine that needs to sell you something. If it's going to make money, it has to be sold to you. That is how the economy works. And the fact that we are so slow to call TV shows and movies products is actually a testament to how we view art and how we view artists, which is actually a very good thing, albeit flawed. We view things like TV shows and movies and books and comics and video games. We view those things as passion projects because we are passionate about those projects. When we create them ourselves, we want to know all the effort that's been put in. We want people to know that there are themes and things we're trying to communicate. There's a message and there's a reason to all of this. And that's great. We should always have that passion in us, inside of us, to create what we create. But when it comes to producing that thing, those things don't matter as much. They should be there to make sure you have a quality piece of thing you need to sell to somebody. But it's not what matters. If it doesn't sell, they're not going to keep it. It is just economics. And that is why art on that level is no longer just art. It's economics. It's why people say that annoying ass thing of, well, it might be entertainment, but it's still a business. Or Broadway is Broadway, but Broadway's also show business. You know, you can't say show business without business. Stupid shit like that where we're like, oh, God, I wish money didn't have to be a part of this thing. No. It is not because money has to be a part of the thing. It's because this thing you want to produce, if it's your show, if it's your album, if it's your movie, it needs to be sold. Because that's the amount of dollars they're playing with at this level of production. Everything that went into The Walking Dead was about what can we afford to do. The reason we cut scenes and the reason we do rewrites is hardly often the fact that the story needs to be improved or some writing changes need to be made. It's, no, we need to change this scene because it's too expensive to go shoot on this location. We need to change this scene because this amount of special effects and this amount of stunts or props, it's going to be too expensive to shoot. That's just how it works. I watch it work like that every single day in the office.
I mean, shit, we've done that kind of stuff on our level, too. Yeah. How many things have we written where it's like, oh, we have to make the ensemble smaller or the pit smaller because how am I ever going to afford to pay 6 whole musicians?
Yep,
you know?
We do it ourselves. Very correct. We are being duped as independent creators into playing a game only networks, producers, and the big boys can play and win. When we are creating art at this level, we are not playing the same game. And it's a shit deal that we have to try and live up to the same standards because people need to be paid, because people's rent won't just magically just pay themselves. And it gets me really fired up, obviously. And I share your sentiment of like, what is there to be done about that? Because like you said, it's a very big blessing that I had a good paying job so that I could still give my own money to my cast to be in my show. But here's the thing. Could I do any of that right now? Nope. I could not do How to Disappear Completely at the Chain Theater right now. I am unemployed. I don't have enough money to pay people anywhere close to the rate I was paying them at first. I have other jobs that are lined up, and I don't have anything consistent to invest any of my own money into other places. And that's just where I'm at right now. So I would like to propose, would we like to move into the how to help section?
Yeah.
Let's see if there's a positive outcome to this.
I think this is a very good segue to go into how to help.
Yeah. How to help is like, I don't want to get on this podcast just to be like, here are all these problems, they're shit, bye. That wouldn't be very helpful of us. I would like to say that at least optimistically, there are many, many practical solutions to independent media creation. And a lot of those solutions are compromise. Hear me out. When I say compromise, I do not mean give up on what you're working on. I do not mean cut it down. I do not mean hack it to pieces so it's just cheaper and easier to produce. I mean, accept the fact that you are going to face more obstacles than you think you deserve. And it's true. You don't deserve so many obstacles just to make your art. If you are an artist and you want to make your art, you don't deserve all of those obstacles. But as long as capitalism is still at play and we're trying to break out of the clutches of playing by the same rules as the big boys, as the big product machines, the big networks and streamers, we're going to be fighting an uphill losing battle. So we got to learn to do it our own way. And that involves compromise. Compromise on what? First off, to put on a closing note about all the stuff I said about my old production office job, I left the TV and film industry. I'm not going back for the foreseeable future. I am pursuing an independent career in low budget / local theater, independent music creation. In the meantime, just being a person. We sometimes forget that we need time to be a person and not just making money from the things we create. Don't you love forgetting about that? You're like, oh, my interests, my hobbies, those are actually valuable and important to my whole vision as a human person? Anyway, what I'm saying is, hey, are you working on something right now while you're listening to a podcast thinking it's going to boost your productivity? Put that shit down. Put whatever you're working on down right now and go play a video game you really like, or go get stoned and listen to some music and take a nap. Oh my God. Just stop for a second.
Make something with your hands that you never plan on selling.
Make something you never plan on producing or selling.
That's something that is really underrated.
Oh my God, so underrated. I had so much fun. One of the most fun things I ever produced musically was my Five Nights at Freddy's fan song, and that's because I had zero expectations for it. All I knew I wanted to do was make it sound cool and maybe put it on the internet. I did both of those things, and I couldn't be happier. But yeah, so something that you can do to help combat this system of creating and selling art is sometimes, one, just stop. Just remember to indulge yourself and remember that your creativity comes from being a whole person. Some of the worst artists and the worst musicians and the worst writers are people that clearly are not a person behind their craft.
Sometimes they aren't even a person behind their craft. The second we see AI, studio quality TV shows written by AI, I'm going to fucking riot.
Yes, burn those shows to the ground. Yeah, so sometimes it could be worse. It could be not even a human behind what you're consuming. Anyway, getting used to slowing down, remembering that you're not a huge network, you're not a huge streaming service, you're not going to have the same output as them. You're not going to have the same reach as them. We are playing a different game. I will keep saying that. But this is a sort of radical approach to a thought that is supposed to get you revitalized and headed in new directions in terms of what you want to do with your creativity, what you want to do with your projects. Literally, so many people will drop entire wonderful projects that they're working on because they feel like they can't produce it by themselves, or they feel like since they can't get it to the same level as the biggest media corporations, they feel that something is wrong with what they're doing. I had a friend ask me if I thought there was something wrong with them for not being able to produce things. And I was like, dude, you're not. There's nothing wrong with you. It's literally a job. Being a producer is a job, just as you could be a director or a writer or a singer or a composer or a lyricist. You can be all of those things without having to magically be everything all at once. Who says you have to be a producer too? There are literally people whose job titles are producer. That's all they do every day, produce. So don't be mad at yourself if you can't magically produce as much as you want just all by yourself.
Producing is extremely stressful,
it's stressful
too. Like the fact that as a small creator, you are kind of expected to be a self-producer. You're expected to produce your own show. You're expected to produce your own YouTube series. I'm horrible at organizing people because I have copious amounts of social anxiety that keeps me from doing things on time. But yet I've been thrust into producer roles like so many fucking times.
Exactly.
Because I kind of have to.
Thrust is a very good word for it because it's like you didn't plan it. You didn't want it. You weren't even aiming for that, but you found yourself there. You're now a producer. Congrats. Here's all the stress. There
have been so many times where, like, you know, I told someone that I produced my own show and they were like, oh, I didn't know you were interested in producing. It's like, I'm not. I'm really not. I just want to see my work put on.
I would have said the exact same thing if somebody asked me that during my one act play. If they're like, wow, how did it disappear completely with such a good show and you had such a great cast? Like, wow, how did it all come together? The answer is, I don't know. I went into a very dark dissociative state for 2.5 months and then a show happened and now it's done. I personally consider myself to be the most mid-tier producer ever.
But you put something on.
I put something
That's
on.
another thing that, like, you know, maybe we should all not have as much of an expectation on ourselves to do things absolutely perfectly if we're not getting paid for it.
Exactly.
Which is something I struggle with a lot, because I'm a fucking perfectionist at heart. I don't like putting things out there if I don't think it's top quality. Yeah, I need to fucking loosen up, especially when it comes to, like, my channel and stuff, because I'm not being paid for YouTube. Well, a few pennies a day doesn't really count as being paid.
Yeah, that's what I did with, like, when I was in the TikTok Creator Fund. 1 cent every day. Woo, go me.
It's abysmal. Because if you are creating things independently, it is going to be not perfectly polished, because people aren't paying. If you go to see an independently produced show written by a independent writer, the ticket's going to be what, $15? You're not paying Broadway prices for this. It doesn't have.
I was going to say the ticket prices for my one act were $20, and that was an off-Broadway theater.
Maka was $25. These prices, you know, it's something that's accessible to people, but it's also something that people aren't going to be saving up a ton of money to see. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I think we all have to let ourselves. I'm talking to myself mostly here because I have such a big problem.
Yeah, everybody else stop listening. Anna's having a little one-on-one.
But yeah, you get the vibe.
Oh, the vibe is gotten, Anna. Oh, it's so got. It's just so disgusting to have to think about the times where I would be torturing myself about something that's not completely perfect. And I just wanted to get it out there. That's pretty much everything I've done musically. Fun fact, my entire Spotify, rushed, impatient, not anywhere near the quality I wanted it to be. I would like to say that when money is harder for your project, the sense of moral responsibility goes up. And I hate to say this is like, no money good, money bad. But like, honestly, when you're operating at the highest levels of commercial production, all of these problems are just things you can afford or can't afford. And you're like, whatever costs the least amount of money to do, we're just going to do that so we can maximize the profit. Again, this is a product. This is a business. We need to make money. And then we are like, how does money still be a part of it while we hold moral responsibility for ourselves? It can't. Fun fact, capitalism is evil. There's no way around it. Anyway.
I just want to tear it all to the ground so we can all just make our own art on our
guerrilla
own
theater
time.
style.
And also, you know, honestly, I am convinced that theater would be so easy to translate into like a communist utopia collective kind of thing. Because like we all are able to do multiple things in the world of theater. Like we can all just like take turns putting on each other's shows. When it's not our turn to have our show put on, we do, you know, front of house stuff or make sets or do lighting or sound or like any of the crew stuff. So it's just sort of like a rotating group of people who puts on each other's shows, and the profits are split amongst everyone.
Congratulations. We just reinvented a theater troupe. we just really reinvented the wheel right here. Going back to when I said like compromise, speaking of like compromising on money, the budget you're working with, the expectations you should have for yourself, acknowledging that things are going to be flawed. I often tell my best friends and other creators who are just artistic people themselves that the opposite of creation is not destruction. The opposite of creation is isolation. Again, toot that horn till it don't blow no more. But when I say the opposite of creation is isolation, is that the more we rely on just ourselves to do something, the harder on ourselves it's going to be. There are obviously exceptions to this case. For example, the guy who made Stardew Valley, he did that all by himself. He continues to do it all by himself. He's a little freak of nature, making an amazing game and an amazing follow-up game that all of us little queers are going to enjoy with all of our hearts. All right, God bless that man.
I didn't know that Stardew Valley was only made by one person.
One dude. I have 3 figs.
Now, that's the thing with video games.
Yeah, and that's...
Video games have a pretty low point of entry. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have the ability to code, the ability to write, and the ability to do simple art, you can have a video game. And if you, hire someone to help you with backgrounds and hire someone to help you with music and you can make a solid game with a team of 5 people.
Exactly. So let me ask you, why don't we consider the same approach when making theater?
Because you need more people than 5,
Because you need more people than 5. Here's the thing. This is easier for teenagers. Teenagers don't need to be making a living wage. Now, as adults, yes, that's harder. But if adults can just have 5 people and make a video game together, or even less, even if it's just a dude, I know it's a lot easier to be one dude and make a video game than be one person and make a musical. We need to reorganize in our mind's eye how we view what theater can look like. We only know theater to exist on very high budgets, very big stages, very big production values, very big effects. But are we really taking full advantage of the talents we have, the people we know, and the things we might already have access to? And it's a very hard thing to try and think about or conceptualize, because on the surface level, it sounds like I'm just saying, do guerrilla warfare. Go do guerrilla theater out in a street. Go find a park. Go find a street corner. Just go do theater out in the middle of nowhere. Go do it in a cornfield. But like my brother, why not? Why? Hear me out. I would go to a play in a cornfield. Like, if you invited me to go to a cornfield, like imagine if I were back home in good old Minnesota and somebody was like, oh, I'm putting on a musical. The admission fee is basically just like, if you want to donate anything, it could be food, it could be a drink, it could be money, we don't care. We're putting on a play with a bunch of my best friends, some of my best friends' coworkers. We've been working on it for like half a year, but we finally have the time to put it on in a cornfield. Do you want to come watch? I would be in that cornfield. Children of the Corn style. I'm never leaving. I want to watch that show.
Children of the Corn, the musical.
Children of Corn, the musical. You're a fucking genius, Patrick. Your genius is showing. But this is what I mean. We can take inspiration and practical steps from other creative mediums to reevaluate how we view theater. We don't need to be doing theater. We don't need to be doing TV. We don't need to be doing film on the same level and same budgets and monetary constraints or requirements as these people, if we're willing to work for it, if we're willing to make that what we consider theater in our eyes. Because a lot of people do things like cabarets and little fundraisers in the hopes that we can one day take this to Broadway, we can get off Broadway, then on Broadway, and then win a Tony or something. It's like everything is viewed as stepping stones, and we are never allowing our art to exist how it's supposed to exist in the moment. And that is what holds us back from being able to actually create something. Because like we said, sometimes we just straight up don't put anything out there if it's not professional, if it's not perfect, or if it's not the highest standard that we want it. We as artists don't get to sit here and be told this is the only way. This is the only way we get to make our TV shows. This is the only way we get to make our theater. Simply put, it is not. It is not the only way. And I am just all for people taking radical steps in their life, however they are able to do so. I will never try and sit here and pretend that capitalism doesn't exist. It's not something you need to be a part of. No, y'all need to be a part of it. I need to be a part of it. You need to be a part of it. If you're an adult, you have a job. That is so stupid, but it's the truth. And something I'll say is that I would rather work a job for half a year while I'm writing something I want to be really good. And I can take a long time working on that thing, knowing that I don't have any of these deadlines to be met. I don't have any of these production schedules to fulfill. I'm just working on my own time in a way that's good for me, the creator. And hopefully someday I talk to my friends. I talk to my friends' friends. I talk to my family. I don't care. Like, find a way to do the thing you want to do and just be nicer to yourself.
Also, along these lines, I think people need to be more willing to consume media that isn't perfectly polished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go find free media on the internet made by some dipshit and their friends.
Like, have you noticed when it comes to like YouTube quality has steadily gotten more and more and more polished throughout the years.
It's freaky. It's almost like watching diet TV.
Like, it is. And like, I love watching YouTube. I watch so much fucking YouTube. Mostly like cooking shows and video essays about weird shit. There's no reason why a video essay about weird shit needs to have super polished production quality. Like, I get ideas for video essays all the fucking time. I have one that I'm thinking I want to do as my first July upload, but I might push it to August yet again, because the thought of actually sitting down and producing this video essay, which is pretty niche to begin with and won't get that many views, like, the thought is just like, oh my God, this is going to be so much work. I have to record it. I have to find all the extra media. I have to edit it. I have to, like... Because there's this idea that no one's going to watch it if it's just you sitting in front of a camera talking.
So I'm going to get really close to the mic and say something ASMR level of sexy. But hey, money makes things bad. Money wrecks things. So, okay, and I say this with a huge caveat. Sorry, I'm going to get sexy again. Money is bad, but we also need money to live. We can't escape this capitalist society that we're all trapped in. So I wish you have enough money so that you have a comfortable life free of the unnecessary stresses that you're currently facing. But also, as a creator, be warned and be alert to the fact that getting big budget could easily just make things so bad. That's my ASMR, my anti-capitalist ASMR. I'm just finding that's my angle.
And it was fucking correct.
Thank you. And I'm like, this is, I don't care if this is like my personality or my angle or whatever, but this is just, I'm so passionate about the fact that money keeps us artists so disappointed and so disheartened in what we're creating. And that's such a valid thing. I will never blame anybody for being upset that money makes it hard to make the things you want to make. It's not our fault. You're just doing your best, buddy. But if we get creative, if we work with the people we know, the opposite of creation is isolation. Talk to people you know. Talk to people those people know. Go join a Facebook group. Visit a community theater. Be a theater teacher. That's what I'm going to do. In July, I'm going to be teaching a theater program to a bunch of kids, and hopefully I can just do that and inspire a love of creating for theater in a bunch of kids so that there are more theater creators in the world. Community is part of art. I'm sick and tired of the fact that the suffering artist, the lone artist, the self-produced artist is a standard we strive to meet.
Hate the myth of the solitary artist. This is one of the reasons I left classical music, because that is like the big thing in classical music is the composer is God. If you are a classical composer, you wrote this song and you orchestrated it and it is yours, and the people who are playing it, they do not matter. What matters is if they're interpreting what you wrote correctly. And I found that so fucking frustrating. Yeah. So yeah, theater is so much better because theater is in nature collaborative, and most forms of art are in nature. I mean, classical music is in nature collaborative too. It's just there's a mindset that people need to break.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into my hatred for plot twist. I hate something on top of also hating capitalism. Who would have guessed? But I hate capitalism, and I also hate basically everything we are currently referring to, because it's like, the thing is this myth of the monolith, the myth of the mountain, the myth of the isolated creator, and the fact that theater isn't inherently
the auteur.
The auteur. I agree with a lot of what you said, and hopefully by reorganizing our mindsets, we can appreciate theater for its recklessness, for its community, for its mutual aid, and for the ways that we can still create something that should be fulfilling to us, while still we can all get together and gripe and acknowledge that the fact we don't have as much money to work with limits us in many ways that we think is the only way we can create theater. But, you know, we've just
Come on. Our whole thing is that we're creative. Are you telling me that money is the only way we can do this shit? Nah, we're too creative for that. We're too smart for that.
I mean, the thing is, like, I would love to do this shit for free. I mean, fuck, I do shit for free all the time. I don't mind doing shit for free. I just wish I had energy after work to do this shit for free.
And that is where we get into the topic of possibly another episode, how to have a job and also try to create art. But I feel like that could be
Seriously,
that could be a
how do
whole
you
episode.
keep a job and create art and possibly keep several other jobs and also, like, you know, feed yourself and do your fucking laundry and like have the energy to like talk to people? Like, people have limited numbers of energy. I only have so many spoons.
It would take so many spoons that I cannot hold. But that's a conversation for another day. Until then, I just have to get myself creating and writing things by being either blindly optimistic or just chaotic as shit. If I'm going to try and create something that I love, like theater, I'll be fucking damned if you tell me the only way I can actually have a fulfilling life in theater or a fulfilling life in TV or a fulfilling life in film is to do all of this stupid capitalist bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Regarding the chaos of creating. If you could put on anything that is like a random location-based guerrilla piece of theater or like random online piece of media that, you know, no one's worrying about budget, you're just fucking throwing shit at the wall and making something crazy and chaotic and awesome, what would you do?
Ultimate theater chaos sandbox is what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh, delicious question. Well, I would want to put on Apocalypse WoW, the thing Jade and I have been working on basically for 4 years at this point. I would want to put on Apocalypse WoW.
The way we would do the instruments is we would have actors and performers who can also play instruments. I once saw this community theater production of Natasha Pierre in The Great Comet of 1812 up at this rural area in New York State where basically everybody in the cast could play an instrument and they all took turns playing instruments. Now, there were some actors and ensemble actors who played instruments more often than others. Like Natasha and Pierre themselves didn't often play very many instruments, but like even the main like supporting characters would play live instruments like a live violin, a live accordion, the live drums, and they would be part of the cast and the orchestra. I think doing something like that would be so cool, with people who could alternate on different instruments and stuff. And I would want to do that in some really cool abandoned type factory place. There's this location in Patterson that I think it's called the Art House or whatever. It just looks really cool on the inside. It's very much the aesthetic of the whole show itself. And it's always been our dream to like put something on there, especially Apocalypse WoW. So I would want to do that with cast who can alternate between playing instruments as well as performing. I would want it to be live streamed. I would want it to be a mess. I would want it to be hilarious. I would want audience interaction. I would want everybody to like do whatever the fuck they want, and because that is truly what Apocalypse WoW stands for. That's what I would want to do. What about you?
So I have had this idea for a play rolling around in my head for like a year. It's about 3 people who were traumatized by the school system. Woo. Well, 2 who were directly traumatized by the school system and 1 who is currently in the process of being traumatized by the school system because she's a new teacher. And
she's not on the outside yet.
The 3 of them reconnect at a office supply store.
Oh.
They had a big falling out when they were 12 years old. They are now 22. They are reconnecting in this office supply store where 2 of them are currently working, and the teacher comes in to buy supplies for her kids because the school doesn't fucking pay for it. And I think it would be real cool to just do it in the middle of a fucking office supply store.
That would be awesome. Come on.
I just have to actually write the thing, you know?
Yeah, you just have to write the thing. Actually, in terms of something that I'm actually working on now. I mentioned this before we recorded, but I'm making a graphic novel, or I'm making a webcomic right now out of something that I originally wrote to be a TV pilot. This is literally something that you can do right here, right now. Take any project you want, something you want to be a feature film, something you want to be a streamable show on Netflix. Come to terms with the fact that it's not going to be a Netflix show right here, right now, but you still want to do something with it right here, right now. What do? Something else. Allow me to elaborate. This show idea I have, I won't pitch it right here, right now, because I've pitched it to you before, Anna. You know what I'm talking about. But basically, the moral is I had a show that I wrote and have a lot of passion behind and sunk a lot of hours into and really want to do something with it. But I had to acknowledge the fact that trying to get it to become a show that I can pitch to somebody or work my way up through the ladder of the entertainment industry till I get to the right people and can show it to them, I don't want to do all that. I have personally seen what that journey is like, and I don't like it. It makes me feel bad. So I decided to do another thing that I had once considered, and that is develop it into a graphic novel / webcomic. And what am I doing now? I have a partner who is the love of my life and is also a visual artist. And I was like, hey, baby, would you ever want to like make some rough sketches for this show idea I have and possibly make it into a webcomic together? And we literally are already outlining the first episode with sketches and drafts. It's becoming real because I just decided to talk to another person and develop this in a way I hadn't thought of before. And now what was once just a script that I really, really liked but didn't know what to do with is now literally taking life in some other form. Here's the thing. Every creator, no matter how solitary you consider yourself, you know somebody. Everybody knows somebody. Or the internet exists. Go out there and scream and tell people you want to make something with them. And I know that sounds very manic pixie dream girl of me, but it's hyperbolic to encourage you to do this thing. Just give it another shot. Keep trying, keep talking to people, talk to people in your real life. And remember just to be nicer to yourself in the process. There is no deadline when it comes to this level. You have all the time in the world. It's okay. I feel like we don't get told that enough. It's okay.
I have a question for you, though, about your webcomic.
Comic, yes.
Do you want to have it dubbed?
Bitch!
Would you be interested in me dubbing your comic for my channel?
Are you McShitting? Listen, let the viewers, and or should I say, let the listeners realize right now, the thing I've been telling you all to do literally just happened. I hadn't even thought about dubbing it, which is a great fucking idea because I was like...
I mean, the second you said webcomic, when we were talking earlier, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That might be a fun way to, like, one, boost your webcomic, two, boost my channel.
Exactly.
And also, I always need more things to voice because it's gotten to the point where, like, I can only do so many Homestuck comics. There aren't any more Hive Swap comics to voice.
You've done them all.
I've done voicing random Tumblr shitposts so many times. I need a new narrative to voice. So yeah, I would be happy to. I'm sure Jonaya would be definitely happy to do voices for that. I could get people from my regular roster of VAs. And also, of course, you voice act.
I do. That I do. And I think that this is exactly how I would want to dub it. I would want to just get my friends and people that we know together to just do this in a way that we think is fun and good for us. And then we just put it out on the internet. Like, I am doing all of this development on my idea as a webcomic out of a passion for the project itself. Even my partner, their job is not a full-time artist. They work at a animal clinic. And I was like, so neither of us are really getting to do this as our primary income or primary career. And as much as it would be nice to only ever have to think about theater and just theater and not theater and also the way I make money, which is hopefully by also theater, but sometimes it's not. we understand that like we still have our jobs, we still have our lives, we still have things we need to do. But that's why we're taking it slow. We're taking our time. We're probably not going to get anywhere close to releasing this anytime this year. I don't even have more than the first episode written, but it's taking shape at a pace and in a way that's best for the both of us. And I would love to have it dubbed when the time comes. I will 500% hit you up for that.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, creation, good. Talk to people. Join fandoms.
Join a fandom.
You'll meet creatives there. You don't even have to make fandoms.
Nice.
Join fandoms to meet creatives.
If you join a fandom, just don't be racist. Be nice. You would.
Oh yeah, I mean that's kind of a rule.
That's
always.
a rule always.
Try not to.
But fandoms, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you.
If you're a racist, anything, stop being
If you're a
racist.
racist, anything, fuck you.
But while we wrap this up, why don't we promote some of our own independent projects? You just promoted your webcomic that will come out one day. But do you have any other things that you're working on, that you're releasing? Anything exciting?
I'm currently writing a song about Applebee's. It's
just about Applebee's, or
it's hip hop, and it's something I wrote in a dead sweat in the middle of the night, where I was like, I just had inspiration for an Applebee's jingle, but it's actually just like a trap hip hop track. So that's what I'm working on right now. Please expect some independent music from a person who is me, but may not be using the same name as me, because I'm trying to figure out my branding as a musician versus my branding as a writer and creator. But anyway, I'm going to be making some music, and it's going to be shitty and fun and stupid, and maybe it'll come out on the internet in some time. But until then, if you just like my voice, if you think I'm pretty, and you want to be pretty too, you can just follow me on my things. I'm a person. I'm just a person.
Links in the description.
Links? Oh, you already know where they're at, babe. They're in the fucking description.
If you're here on my channel because you know my channel, you already know what has been coming out lately. Upload every other week. I have been doing Upload Mondays for the last almost 5 years, but I am actually going to be shifting it to Upload Wednesdays because I work on the weekends now. I can't just make my videos on the weekends like I used to in college. Life has changed. They are now Upload Wednesdays. If this video is coming out in July, if I'm making this my first July upload, you can all look forward to my SawCon musical this year. It's going to be a Homestuck cabaret. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Come to SawCon. It's going to be great. If this is my August upload, well, then come, if you are in the New York area, come see Cowgirl at the Players Theater. It's running from August 10th through August 27th, Thursdays through Sundays. Check out my album, Gamer Girl Floodwater, link in the description. It is the music you are hearing now, the music you heard at the beginning, and the music you hear on pretty much every video on my channel from now back through like last year or something. And of course, all of my social media in the links below. Huge thanks to my patrons, Jonaya Riley, Tev Linsey, Stinky, Rosalie Ross, Jeremy M. Are you gonna, you're gonna submit to the Patreon?
I'm gonna submit to the Patreon. You can throw my name on at the bottom of the list.
And Beatrice Quinn. So yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And we will see you all next time.
See you all next time. Goodbye.